Niue Waste Management presents Lalaga, weaving our lifestyle and environment together for a better Niue. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Niue Waste Management, AusAid, Government of Niue, Project Management and Coordination Unit.
Greetings, my name is Angela Tuhipa. I am the Project Manager for the Niue Waste Management Project under PMCU.
Falafalahiatu. My name is Daniel Makaya. I will be assisting in some of the work we will be doing under the Waste Management Project under PMCU as the Technical Operations Advisor. Thank you.
Palawhalahi atu koe hingo haku ko Felicia Pihingia Talangi, hauau he manga ko Tuapa mo Awaseli. Ngā hua au ke whahinga hua PMCU, le veki atu ke tau matanga hua, po ke tau projects he whatuwhono Niue. Whakauelahi.
Living in paradise with my family, with you and your family, it's a blessing. Like, to be in the midst of COVID-19 and then to sit back and go, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for in my life, where I am, and the country, and with my immediate family, my wife and my offsprings, my children. It's a blessing to be living in paradise and to have such, to be at this age and have a family. It's like, wow. I'm really grateful for Niue, grateful for this paradise life that we live. I'd rather be in Niue with my family during this COVID-19, and I'm sure you all have feel the same and have different experiences about living in Niue. And I think that's what I'll just say first, that I'm grateful.
Similarly, I'm grateful. I'm so blessed to be here. And like you said, paradise life. Especially in the times that we're in right now with COVID. We're still able to move freely in Niue and do things that we still normally do on a day-to-day basis. And on TV, we see our friends in New Zealand going through the different levels of lockdown and the restrictions that's been imposed on them. Yet for us in Niue, we can just hop on the car and go up to the plantation, get our taro, come back, go down fishing, get our fish, and then, that's dinner for us. That's the day. We're still able to move around, go to the field, have a game of touch with your friends.
We're going to put that on the spot right now to you and your beautiful family for extending our population in Niue. Bro, that is such an awesome feeling. And how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Living this paradise that you guys both have mentioned before. And yes, obviously, we are expecting our third child.
And applause goes to Dan.
Just grateful. My mom just returned from overseas, and listening to her stories of how much New Zealand have changed because of COVID-19. Everywhere you go, you have to wear a mask, and with your sanitizer as well. And how lucky are we to still have that freedom of just wandering around, do whatever we want. And I feel sorry for our family overseas. And
For me, I feel that we are blessed as a country to not have to experience what other countries are experiencing right now with COVID. And we can move freely here in Niue. We can do pretty much, exactly the same things that we were doing pre-COVID. But I think my concern is that we don't have kind of like that stark reality of what people are going through overseas, which is to ensure that we've got really good social distancing and we're prepared. So those are the things that kind of I worry about, that we still potentially have this type of thing that we need to be concerned about. And I'm also mindful too that we've got the restrictions for us going overseas is an issue right now for a lot of people, a lot of families who need to be heading to New Zealand for medical care, and there are a lot of issues around not being able to get into quarantine. I think with vouchers, there's just so many different things that are stopping our people from being, able to freely go overseas. So there are a lot of challenges that kind of come along with the fact that we are in this beautiful bubble, but the minute that we kind of have to step out of it, we have to be far more prepared, I think.
Yeah. So I wanted to just quickly touch on that preparedness that you had alluded to. I mean, it's awesome that we have that freedom to move around, but at the same time, because we do a lot of business with New Zealand, we also have to start putting in place some plans for ourselves. Say, for example, in the event that no ships will be allowed to travel because of COVID. I mean, just thinking of the worst case scenario. No ships moving around, no flights. What will happen to us in Niue? How do we prepare ourselves in the event that these things will happen? So I think we also need to use this as a lesson for us to look back at our own institutions, and how do we put incentives, or how do we put programs in place to help ourselves. And an example would be because the ship, they bring in a lot of our goods. If that doesn't happen, we would be looking at our growers to be supplying for the whole nation. So how can we help our growers? How can we incentivize to start growing for the nation in that scenario? Yeah.
From the wider spectrum of government and programs, I think one of the most important programs we could ever work on is our family unit. And to also just teach them, look, this is what's happening globally. Let's make sure that the time that we have together, that we put ourselves as parents in check as well. Like, how much time are we putting on work compared to home? Are we taking our work home? And when we are home, are we really at home with our kids? And that's just a reality check, because COVID isn't going away anytime soon. And so if we've got this bubble that we live in, which sometimes is a blessing and a curse, because we can get pretty sport here in Niue. And so
We
yeah,
get too complacent.
yeah, oh man, very complacent. And sometimes we act like nothing's ever going to happen, that COVID won't ever come here. But I'm grateful for the health department and those programs that they've put in place to making sure that our borders are safe, and that quarantine, when it happens, whichever way it does happen, where either we go one way and then quarantine coming back, but to go back to our families and to our units at home and be like, hey, this is what's happening in the world. What are we doing at home? What are we doing to make sure our own safeguards are up to scratch and up to date? Where's mum and dad? What are we doing to making sure that we are, we're the safe haven for our children, and keep them updated about what the world is happening, what the world is like. And look, it's crazy out there. I know eventually you're going to leave and go be your own person, make your own family. But if we can teach them here in Niue first to appreciate this bubble, to also realize what's out, because we don't even realize that we're spoiled sometimes in this paradise that we live in. And I think we can do that as well. And then that can, of course, outstretch to our government departments, HODs, etc., as a government branch anyway.
Yes.
One positive outcome from our work is that we don't really get to travel like how we used to during before COVID, and I guess we get to spend more time with family rather than traveling overseas to businesses and meetings and stuff like that. But right now, we can do our Zoom conference, but still be able to be here in Niue.
Another great thing about that as well, Lee, is that tourism, and with the number of tourists that comes to Niue, that also that puts also some sort of burden on our infrastructure. Like Dan said, there's still some positives from COVID. We've been able to have this time in country where we can really sit down and rejig or replan things and shuffle what works, what doesn't work, and really forge a new pathway. But considering also what's happening around us. But I think that the positive for me would be the waste component, where there's a dramatic drop, I hope, simply from the tourism industry, because there's hardly any tourists now coming in.
There is no tourists coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the timing, I mean, it's ideal just purely because of the changes that we're looking to make in terms of having a waste recycling centre to be constructed,
Yes.
and also kind of supplementary activities to help support that. And so the timing, of not having that pressure on the infrastructure to allow us to kind of get things in place, like the centre, which we're hoping to be constructed by the next year. So that break gives us the time to be able to assess and reassess, because we've this project has been ongoing for some time, and so when obviously there's a lot of things that have evolved over the time that this project has been developed. So this does give us a chance to be able to kind of do things like what Dan and his team are doing, which is an audit of waste, which I think is really, it's needed, because I think the last time that was done would have been some time ago. Dan, 2010?
2010.
Yeah. So, I mean, Dan can speak to some of the things that they're doing right now, which had we had more people on island, creating the waste that we're trying to manage, it would be far more challenging for them. So yeah.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Niue Waste Management, AusAid, Government of Niue, Project Management and Coordination Unit, Dan the Man, the Fisherman. So you have a YouTube channel. Can you please share with us why, and our audience that are tuning in, why you have a channel, what's the purpose, what's the drive behind your YouTube channel?
I'd just like to, provide a bit of background of why I decided to create a YouTube channel. I was very fortunate that I was actually given a GoPro to begin with from one of my cousins. Thank you. And I just really wanted to capture what we do out on the ocean. And for a reason of things, I wanted to show my mum what we do out on the water, because obviously she's married to a fisherman for over 25 odd years. All my mum knows is the catch, the fish on the table. She cooks it and feeds the whole family. But what she doesn't see is the actual process of getting the fish from the bottom of the ocean into your canoe and bringing it back. So I was thankful that I actually got to show her. It was a proud moment for me, and the look on her face, it's just
Priceless.
Yeah, very priceless.
Wow.
So going back to social media, YouTube channel. My family and friends, they really encouraged me to put something out there, because I know that not a lot of Pacific Island countries still fish from outrigger canoes. And I was like, oh, okay, why not? Just throw something up on YouTube, and just for the whole world to see that we are still practicing our tradition of catching fish from an outrigger canoe.
Do you get a good response from people? Like, do they comment? And are they people mostly from here or overseas?
Yeah, heaps of positive feedbacks, and more followers on YouTube, more friends on Facebook, and not just Niueans but overseas as well. And some of them, they came back saying, yes, I visited Niue, but this was way back, and we used to fish like this. So it was kind of like they were reminiscing of like memories that they had here in Niue, and for them to see the videos, it just brought back memories, which is a good thing for me, and it's exactly what I'm trying to put out there.
And that's the great thing about it, eh? It's bridging technology with our traditional practices. And I mean, how awesome is it that we have Dan here showcasing our traditional canoe outrigger practices out in the ocean, and being able to share that not only with your mum, but with everyone else. And then we also, I mean, like you mentioned, you have people from overseas now who's watching your channel and reminiscing about their time. And I mean, for all we know, they're probably sharing also to their kids. And you've just created a platform where we have our Niueans teaching other people about the Niuean way of life. Yeah.
But the interesting thing for me is because we're, I don't want to go back to COVID, but, our tourism sector is really suffering right now. And my thoughts are around how else can we look at being able to provide people with experiences that they would normally typically get here on island. And that's kind of how we help our economy. And I'm just thinking, something that Dan's been doing, it gives people that experience, but they don't actually physically have to be here. So, how do we look at capitalising on that? Going forward, we have to really think outside of the square in terms of our economy and what we can do to, because it will be happening globally. Everybody has to rethink how, their country is going to be able to survive. Niue has to do the same thing. So whether we can do something like what Dan's been doing, and I think that Dan's probably one of the only people I know here, other than, actually we might have the two people on island that are doing that. So there's potential to be able to generate interest, maybe generate an income out of it. There are a lot of social media people, influencers that are making money, and maybe that's kind of something that we need to look at as well.
First thing I thought of was putting a 360 camera on your waka, like putting on a tripod, having it just above your head, and people who watch it after it's uploaded, they can scroll whichever way possible they want to view him fishing in real time. I mean, that's just, so whoever's watching, all our internet heads and our YouTubers, if you'd like to donate a 360 camera to Dan the Man Fisherman, hit us up and we can give you that virtual experience. And you are so right, where if tourism isn't coming, let's go to them.
And that's what I wanted to touch on, eh? I quite like how Ange mentioned thinking outside of the box, because COVID right now has really pushed us to think outside of the box. We're so accustomed to, the business as usual, and then COVID throws a spanner in the works, and we're like, okay, we can't operate as how we used to be. So how do we find ways to help ourselves with what we have in front of us, with the restrictions that we have right now? And I just want to put my work hat on. And because we have the Niue National Strategic Plan, which the vision of that plan is to have a prosperous Niue, a Niue ke Munuina. And the backing or the push for that vision was economic sustainability, economic self-sufficiency. And that was majority based on the tourism sector. COVID came in and tourism was like non-existent. Close to non-existent. So what do we put in place to help ourselves? And Dan has just, helped us put some of the prosperity in there. For some people, prosperity is not about money. It's like you said, it's a family unit. How do I define prosperity? For me, it's having healthy kids, my family together, and having a balanced lifestyle. So a prosperous Niue or a Niue ke Munuina, that's my definition of that vision. It'll be different for everyone and how they define that prosperity for each of them.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Niue Waste Management, AusAid, Government of Niue, Project Management and Coordination Unit.
So the Niue Waste Management Project has been ongoing, but we signed an agreement with Australia in August 2018, and there are a number of activities that we do or will be doing with the project. The main activity is the construction of a new resource recycling centre for Niue, and we're looking at having that constructed, in the new year. Some of the other things that we've been doing to help support, because a lot of what this project is about is the focus obviously is to have a centre in place. However, there is, a lot of educational awareness that we've got to look at doing, purely because, there does need to be somewhat of a change in people's mindset around how they manage their waste in their homes and their businesses. So we've been doing things, that will help support that. So we've been working with the schools and the communities, not just through the project itself, but also in collaboration with the project unit and the Department of Environment. Looking at providing rubbish bins or recycling bins for the schools, the primary school, and we're in the process of looking to do the same thing with the high school. We're able to look at providing household bins for the majority of the households in Niue, and we did that last year, and Dan was very heavily involved in that as part of the Department of Environment. So there's a lot of different things that we need to be doing to help support ultimately the construction of the centre, which will be the main point where all waste will be managed. So there's an audit that Dan and his team have been doing that he's going to speak to, which is also again going to help support what we're doing in the project.
Speaking of the waste audit, in the past few weeks, the environment team have been busy with our waste audit, and the reason for this audit is to collect data for to make proper decisions on how we manage our waste here in Niue. And some of the activities that we are doing right now, and with the support of the waste management project, is the recycling collection and general waste collection. And these are some of the activities that we are trying to get the people to help with our waste here. And obviously we will be we'll be building a waste plant facility that can manage all waste that are found here in Niue. And in saying that, We do have rubbish collection days, Mondays and Thursdays, and the recycling collection will be on a Wednesday, every blind week.
I just wanted also to add, because we are so used to seeing waste, and then we refer to, our general waste at home. Other waste streams that the project is also addressing, the solid waste, but we also have the hazardous wastes. We have the liquid wastes. We have quarantine waste, and we also have medical waste. These are also some of the streams that the project is able to support the different departments that have been spearheading the activities under these waste streams. We forget that quarantine waste has to be segregated from, our normal day-to-day waste. So I take my hat off to our COVID task force, as well as the environment team who's been addressing the quarantine waste. And also to our team at health who's addressing the medical waste. So there is a whole spectrum of waste that this project is only looking into supporting, but it's such a big undertaking that we can't do it on our own and with this project alone. So it's a whole of government, it's a holistic approach that we're progressing on.
Just someone, a civilian, outside of this project, I see the trucks come do the recycling, I see them do our rubbish. And just to imagine having a facility, a physical place that is going to sort and maintain our waste here in Niue. It's somewhere that I could go, and I think there's even ideas of you guys will be selling recyclable things that are able to be, that can be returned to homes. Just so that is so cool to have something like that here in Niue.
We talk about someone's trash is another person's treasure, right? Yes. So it's all under that recycling concept. Mm-hmm. So, if someone, I'm throwing away my golf bag because, I already have another one, but this golf bag might be useful to someone else. So we take it up to the facility. So that's the idea. That's the idea. We're still working through the different ways on how we can execute that.
Yeah, I think what we truly have to understand is that we've got to look at, how we treat waste just in general. We have to really be mindful and aware of it, from even at the point where we're looking at purchasing things from overseas, because often it's when we're looking at managing the waste that is already here, when we can look at changing our mindset and just kind of how we shop and try to be more aware of what we're actually bringing into Niue, because if we are making those decisions at that point, then you can make better decisions as to what we're bringing on island. Because I think one of the things, as part of the project that we're looking at is whether or not, you want to look at tariffs and things like that. If people are making better choices about what they're actually bringing in, or just changing the way that they actually do things in the home so that they're not creating as much waste as what, we're used to, that I think would be far more helpful, because we can manage it better that way. There's a lot of different things that this project is is working on to help support kind of the nation and the way that we think about the practices of having good sound practices for waste management.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Niue Waste Management, AusAid, Governments of Niue, Project Management and Coordination Unit. Niue Waste Management presents Lalaga, weaving our lifestyle and environment together for a better Niue.